So it is my pleasure to welcome Joseph Mount.
Hi.
How's it going? So welcome. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for coming, everybody.
So you're here alone. Where's everyone else from the band?
They're all like, what are they doing? I think they're all doing kind of homely things before we start touring.
Okay.
So I have to do the bulk of the work.
Okay.
Like this. It's not work, it's pleasure.
You must enjoy traveling around.
No, it's not. It's funny actually. Today, like I've just been doing like loads of kind of interviews, and so it's nice to actually like I haven't seen any people. I haven't seen any people all day, and I haven't seen like any people that actually like fans. You know.
Right.
I mean, like I've seen people that like the music. You know what I mean?
Right. That's cool because we're gonna have a chance to have some Q&A later. But before, let's talk a little bit about the album. It's the fourth album, Love Letters. Can you tell us about maybe the working process, like the creative process behind it, writing, recording, the whole thing?
So like the last album, the English Riviera, I kind of recorded. It's like the first thing I've done in a kind of studio, and the first time I worked like a kind of real musician, because I'd been doing stuff in like my bedroom before that. And yeah, like after that record, I kind of felt like there were things I wanted to do in a studio that I hadn't kind of done, and there were things I wanted to do on that record which I didn't have time to do. And so very quickly after I'd finished that, I started kind of like planning this album, and like all through the albums, I've been, I guess, like kind of getting more confident at singing and like trying to write songs. And it just felt like I needed something, like I needed a situation that would really kind of like focus my like what I do, and like the problem I had when I was doing the English Riviera was that I was in a kind of like a modern studio with like like Pro Tools, which is like obviously this kind of really incredible program, but it gives you so much choice that you end up sometimes left just like not knowing where you are because you've got so many options. And I just thought it would be really interesting if I like completely like went, not the kind of opposite, but the kind of just kind of used technology that was much more restrictive, but had been used to produce like the kind of best albums ever made. And so I decided that like I wanted to record it in an analog studio onto like 8-track tape, and just by those kind of like just those two limitations, like just those in themselves just make you have to think completely different about your creative process and how you write music and how you're going to record music. And that was kind of the instigator really for the record. Like those things were what kind of made the record what it is. Right. Which I guess no one's even heard it, so it's like it's really it's all right, yeah.
So would you describe the sound of it as being kind of retro or old school, or?
I kind of like those are words I hate.
Okay.
No, I think like my mum would describe it as retro. No, but I mean it is like it's retro in the sense that it's kind of like deciding to use this kind of antiquated kind of technology, and kind of deciding that you're going to kind of like shun years and years of development. But it's kind of like, I really did it as something that would. The reason I did it wasn't to kind of like wasn't because I think that digital technology is in any way bad. It was just because I knew that it would kind of do something to the way I wrote songs, and that was the only reason. And it kind of like, I guess it helped that like the stuff that I was listening to and the kind of songs I wanted to write were much more like traditional in their kind of like structure and stuff. but yeah, it's like it's not. Hopefully, it's not just a kind of like a. It's not just a kind of throwback, you know. Like it's hopefully it'll kind of add something.
Right. Do you have any, want to say, anecdotes or funny stories from the from the production process, or you know?
I told you about this before. There's no funny stories.
No funny stories. Okay.
No. I mean, like it's all just that kind of like. I mean, there's like this thing. I mean, this is not funny. Don't expect to laugh at the end of this. Like there's kind of I guess the way that you're able to edit things now is this kind of like nothing is destructive. Like you can delete things and then you can. Turns out you didn't delete them. You know, like it's that kind of you get used to that way of working, and just the only kind of things that you had to get used to in the studio was that like when mistakes were made, like when like destructive mistakes were made, you just kind of had to be like, oh, we'll do it again. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's, right. And that was kind of quite a funny story.
Okay. We just took a look at I'm Aquarius. That was kind of an out there video, and I mean, it's very visual, very kind of beautiful and cool. What's the story behind that track?
The track is like, it's funny because every time you like put out a record, you have to decide what your first single is going to be, of course, and it kind of like, from that point, it, you know, like not quite a lot of things are actually made up like on the hop. But like I think the idea was that we would like lead with the kind of strongest song, and you've got no idea how people are going to react. But like it's this song which I'd started kind of writing like quite a long time ago, and I think I never really imagined that I would be the person that ended up singing it. Like I think I imagined it would be Beyonce, someone like that, to pluck a name out of the air. No, I think I imagined I was writing it for someone else, and certainly at the time that I started writing it, I wasn't the kind of music that was on. Like I started writing it when I was writing stuff for the English Riviera, and it didn't feel kind of right in that record. And then, like by the time I started recording this album, it felt like, oh, okay, it can work now. And I kind of like, I don't know, for me, like I feel like it's this song which is, like I never really imagined I would, like when I started making music, I never really imagined that I would be able to release a song like that and to feel really like happy with it, and to feel like it wasn't this kind of, I don't know, it wasn't kind of, I don't know, like that it felt right, basically. And so yeah, and then from that point, whatever you go and kind of, you try and get like some directors interested, and like that's always a kind of interesting process, because people send you ideas, and suddenly it's like someone else is completely interpreting the song in their own way, and coming up with these ideas, and you're like, oh, how did that, how did you get there? And I think the only thing I tried to, like, the only input I had was like saying that I wanted it to be set in space. Okay. Because like, you know, I can ask, I can make these demands. And yeah, and Edward, who made the video, just kind of sent back this like this mood board, which is kind of it's quite nice when people are sending these like really detailed ideas, and someone just sends you like a bunch of pictures, and they're like, what do you reckon? And yeah, it kind of went from there, and then at the point at which you decide to like work with a director, they just kind of, they're off on their own, you know, you can't really stop them, and they start like talking about hairless cats and all that kind of stuff. You're like, oh my God, that wasn't what I imagined, but you know,
right.
Here we are. I mean, like, I like it. I'm not being.
Great. What would you say the overall theme of Love Letters is? I mean, you know, we see here the cover. To me, it looks kind of like Austin Powers, kind of, you know, like we were saying, 70s.
I'm leaving.
Sorry, as a compliment. But is there like an overall theme, or is there a message that kind of the songs come together to?
Well, like yeah, I mean, the previously, like on other records, I've like, because of the way I started making music, I kind of, it's like I wasn't like a songwriter in the first place. I've kind of tried to make myself better at that. And previously, like I just found it easier to give an album like a theme, because then you can kind of write songs around this theme. And like I was adamant that I wouldn't do it with this record, and I didn't. Like, and when I went to the studio, I kind of recorded. We recorded like 20 tracks, and like 10 of which have kind of ended up on the record. And it was only like in the compiling of the album and of the sequencing of the tracks that you kind of a theme began to emerge. But I don't know, I was asked, like when we were touring the English Riviera, people were saying, oh, so what's the next record going to be about? And I would say, well, I've done nothing but travel for like the past 2 years, and I don't know anything else. Like I've got nothing else to really write about. Like I've got no other thing that's kind of obviously happening every day. So I started writing these ideas about like being away from stuff and like missing people's birthdays, things like that. Something I became quite aware of. Like all my friends were turning 30, and I'd get like emails every day like, birthday party. I can't. It's like, I can't. So no, I was writing like songs on that kind of idea, and they're kind of using the studio, this kind of retro studio, and the way that was making me write more traditional pop songs. It just a more kind of 60s inspired thing came out of it. And one of the songs, like there's a song called Love Letters, which was called Love Letters before the album was, and it just seemed like the right thing to bring it all together. And like having love like on the title, I think is pretty kind of funny, you know. It's like it's quite nice to make people say it all the time.
Have you written a love letter lately to anyone? No. It's funny because, you know, we don't write love letters. We don't write letters anymore. It's all technology.
No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I used to. Definitely, like every relationship I've been in, there's been this kind of the courting period where I've tried to like impress the girl and sent her some stuff, but that fizzles out pretty quick.
Tell me about it.
And it's back to email.
Right. How did you get into music in the first place, actually?
I was, they did this thing at my primary school where they for like one term they said, oh, you can, like every student can play an instrument for a term and you can learn what you like. And I decided I wanted to play the trumpet because I think if you're like, I guess if you're 8 years old, you think that like a trumpet is the coolest thing in the world. And apparently like you can't play the trumpet if you've got your milk teeth, and so I didn't have the teeth for the trumpet, but I did have the teeth for the cello. And I started learning how to play the cello, and like it was really hard and really boring. And so and then like a drum teacher arrived at our school, and I would walk past this like little porter cabin and see people like going, I thought that's amazing. So I did that, and that was the first musical thing, although musicians will argue that drumming is musical, but that was the first thing that I was like, it felt like, oh, okay, well actually I have a talent for this. And yeah, and then went from then, like joined bands and kind of then just began to get a bit more interested in how like other bits of music work, and that's, it's really, that is like how I've ended up here. Like it's just me kind of like working out how you make music.
And then one day you picked up the mic and realized that I could rap. You could rap.
Yeah, no, well, that was weird because I was doing loads of instrumental music and it never crossed my mind to sing, like to actually sing. And I used to try and write these kind of R&B songs, and I would sing them with I'd sing them like a lady would, and I'd kind of record myself kind of doing these things. And I'd imagine that one day, like Beyonce would get them. And then like after a while, I just thought, well, why not like give it a go? And I think like if you listen to the kind of the ones where I'm singing, like you can tell I'm not particularly confident of doing it. And that's something that I've tried to, like once you start doing it, people are going to expect you to carry on and do it better. So I've always tried to get better at that. But I never imagined I would be singing. Like I always thought I'd be drumming at the back, and I would have been really happy there as well.
Speaking of Beyonce and other artists, do you listen to music like still, or do you do you find? Well, do you listen to other artists?
There's two, like I listen to. I kind of get my fix occasionally of like really like of proper chart music, and I really enjoy kind of coming back late and watching. I don't know what the channels here are called, but you know, that kind of like proper just chart music, and I really enjoy that. And then I kind of, I don't know, like I don't listen to as much. I don't like listen to like kind of the people that are the people that we kind of meet when we're doing festivals and when we're touring. I don't really like listen to them that much, you know, like because there's a kind of element of, I don't know, like there's a kind of competitive thing that goes on, and it's not like it just kind of slightly ruins your enjoyment because you're kind of aware of this kind of weird tiny competition. So I listen to like the stuff that I listen to is either like old music or kind of like rap and R&B stuff, which is so, you know, it's so not my competition that I can enjoy it in a very like pure way.
Okay. Do you where do you find inspiration for like your music? Like, is it, we just said other artists, but is it like nature, or is it traveling, or like where do the ideas come from actually?
They're mostly just from, I guess, listening to other people's production, I think, and like the thing that when I started making music and I started, like I was using a computer to do it, I kind of listened to the people that I thought were doing the same thing, and so I was listening to kind of like quite irritating electronic music, and then one day I bought like the NERD, the first NERD record, and a Leah record, and it kind of like changed my, like I suddenly realized that all in that kind of like in R&B and in all that kind of music, the production and the sounds are they're as exciting as anything that's happening like left field, but they're also like really good songs, and you can listen to like an album. And so from that point, like I get the most kind of inspiration like sonically from what's happening in like in that world, like in that other world that I only dream of being in.
Right. And I mean the album's coming out soon, but do you already have plans for the future? Like, where do you see your journey as an artist go? Like, what's next for you, for the band?
I think like already, like I've done, you know, this record's obviously finished, and I think it's kind of important to before like, I don't know if it's going to be like successful, or, you know, you don't know what it's going to be like, but I think at this point it's important to like try and at least get your oar in a bit and like start making kind of progress with the next thing. And so because inevitably people like end up asking, they're like, oh, so how, you know, what are you going to do for the next record? And anyway, I think what I'm going to do, like I've done what I'm, in terms of like working in studios, like I was really interested in learning more about that, and I've kind of done enough of that for the time being. And I think that people are in danger of thinking that I'm like going back in time, and that like the next record's going to be some weird like kind of Charleston throwback. Right. So I think the next record I want to work with I want to work with those people that I find really exciting. So I'd like to kind of maybe get other people to help produce stuff and make it like a much more modern sounding record, and try and, I don't know, like I guess it could be the make or break one, the next one.
Okay.
Have I pushed it too far?
We were talking about technology earlier, and obviously today everyone can record and create music and create video and all that. How do you see that? Do you see that as a positive development, or do you see it as kind of the talent or the skill going down, or how do you?
I think it's like I think it's really like for me, when I started, when I wanted to try and make music, I had to get like a tower computer, and I had to get like loads of keyboards, and I had to kind of, the only things I could buy were like really cheap, kind of crappy Yamaha keyboard things, and so I would use them to kind of make music on the computer. Anyway, it's a very like convoluted way of doing stuff, and like now it's so much easier, and it's so, and I think that you do get people who think that you get people who like really hate the kind of like talent programs and things like that, but I think it's so you know, like fair enough, like everyone should be able to have a go at it, and like everyone can make music, and everyone, like it's possible now for everyone to make music, for everyone to like make films and do whatever, but like it's still, you still have to have it, like for it to, like not everyone can make good music, and not everyone can make good films, and like you just need to look on the internet to realize that. Like it's kind of obvious. But I think that it's definitely for the people, like when you once used to have to have kind of a decent amount of money to like learn an instrument or to buy a kind of recording, like a 4-track or something. The fact that now you can just like get it on your phone for free is really, you know, it's brilliant.
You know, there's obviously a lot of young people watching and, you know, listening there and out there, and aspiring musicians and so on. What would you tell someone who is, you know, kind of getting into music, or what advice would you have for them?
Today, I just think you should just do it. Like, if you start doing something like that for any other reason than the like enjoyment of doing it, then you're kind of not doing. You know, you should probably think about why you're doing it. I mean, you know, I still, if I like have free time, I use it to kind of make music, and I really like, it's something I still really enjoy, and I think that's kind of all. Like, I guess it's a bit cheesy. I'm gonna cry, but it's like it's true, and I think that is, you should never start making music because you think that it's gonna be your job. You know, like it's like, and of course it can be your job, and like anything can be your job. But I just think, yeah, like don't expect anything and just do it for fun, and then before you know it, you'll realize if it's like something you want to dedicate your life to, because you know, I'm lucky enough to have made like a 4th album, and even if you manage to get a record deal or all this stuff, there's still like no guarantee. Like, it's the point at which you get your record deal is probably the most like vulnerable you'll ever be, because the next day, like, or you can lose the record deal. So it's just, you know, I think you have to just do it because you enjoy it.
Do you have any days or any times where you're like, I don't want to record, I don't want to make music, or like, is there some times in your life where you have to get motivated to continue, or
no? Like,
no? Okay.
Really, like it's not. I could get, like, if you're touring a lot, that kind of gets hard because it kind of makes relationships funny. But like, there's no, I don't know. I kind of, if you ever see someone complaining about it, it's like they're crazy, you know, and they probably know it. They probably are actually crazy. I don't know.
Do you ever find yourself needing to like practice? You know, because I don't know, some musicians don't really practice, or some people don't really practice what their skill, or
yeah, I don't either.
You don't?
Well, I mean, like, I guess by kind of like, you're always practicing in a way, but I'm not like technically I'm quite a good. No, I'm not even a good drummer technically. Like, I can play drums all right, but if you gave me a guitar, I wouldn't be able to play you any songs. Like, really. Okay. I'd be able to play you bits of my own songs, and I'd be able to play you stuff from the new record, but like, I'm not like that, really.
Right. Back to Love Letters. Do you have a favorite? You know, they're all favorite, but do you have a favorite 1 or 2 tracks or songs where you feel that kind of the best or better than others, or maybe that's tough to decide. But
I'm actually the whole of this record. I'm really happy with I'm I'm 100% happy with every song on this record, and then that's I would never say that I would never say that about previous records, and I think it's obviously a bit of a statement to say it, but it's true. I'm really happy. But there are I'm Aquarius. I feel really I'm really proud of that as a song. There's another track on the album called "The Most Immaculate Haircut," which is has this kind of a Tuscan swimming pool scene in the middle, which I like a lot. And another track called "Never Wanted," which is my guitar playing at its best.
How's the dynamic between you guys in the band? Is it, obviously you're alone here today, but do you guys enjoy working together, obviously, and traveling and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because Metronomy began as me, when the first record, Pit Pain, is a bedroom record, and it's something that I made, and since then, I've been writing the songs, and it's still this thing which I feel very kind of attached to, because it's this thing which began when I was I don't know, I kind of started. It feels like the same thing that I started when I was 17 or something, and so in terms of the songwriting, that's still my thing, and that makes it easier to kind of if you're doing a talk like this, I can talk about that, with I can just talk about it,
right.
Whereas the others wouldn't be able to talk about it. But the life of our band is kind of 10% of it is writing and recording an album, and then 90% is touring, and on this record, the songs where it's a band playing is us in the room, and yeah, we all get on amazingly well, and if you're going to tour as much as you do with 3 other people, you have to get on with them.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's all for me at this point. We're gonna hand it over to you guys. So, feel free to ask a question. Raise your hand, and I'll call on you. And then just please wait till the mic comes so we can hear your voice. I think up here, for front row.
Hi. I just wanted to say I really love your music, and I'm really excited for your concert in April. But I wanted to ask you, which song did you have the most, which song is your favorite, excluding this album? So in the English Riviera, or, so which song would be your favorite?
There's the first album, which is the one which people know the least about, because it's kind of, it was the way it was it was a long time ago that it happened. There's a song on that record called Black Eye Burnt Thumb, and it's the thing with the first 2 records, with that record and Nights Out, the second album, is I can, because they're bedroom, well, the first one was a bedroom, the second one was a kind of living room / bedroom, but I can, if I listen to them, I can kind of, it kind of really takes me back to exactly the place that I was when I made it, and with that song, I was at university, and I think I was just beginning to kind of get excited about I don't know, about making music and feeling I was kind of onto something, and so that track I like a lot, yeah. But it's kind of, it's quite funny as well. Anyway, check it out.
Front row.
Good evening. I wanted to ask you, when you start writing songs, from which point you usually start? Do you start with a beat, or with a melody, or directly with the lyrics? Do you do the beats and fill in the gaps afterwards, or?
It really depends. With a new album, I tried to start by sitting down at either a keyboard or a guitar, and I don't know, just you kind of muck around, you might be watching the television I will be watching the television with a guitar or something, and then you're just kind of noodling about, and then suddenly, suddenly whatever you're doing becomes more interesting than, like, I don't know, some police chase thing. And then you kind of like switch off the telly, and then you kind of like muck around. And that's normally how I well, recently that's how I've been doing things. But then also because a lot of the time I do start working on songs like on my computer. I'll start by like making a beat and then making a loop and doing things like that. But I think it's kind of, if you're used to one way of writing songs, it's really kind of fun to try it a different way, because like you might not get anything out of it, but it's just an interesting way of doing things. It's like, so by just saying like I was gonna write stuff with a guitar, and that's something I was really unused to. I don't know, it's made me write different types of music. So, and I think maybe in the future I might try and start with like lyrics. People must do that. Yeah.
Right here in the middle.
Hi Joseph, I'm Konstantin. So I've been listening to Metronomy for so much in my life that I think I feel some responsibility for it already, and at some point of yeah, and
me being here.
Yeah, so
thank you.
It seems you've got really serious since the English Riviera and now the Love Letters. Yeah, so after you record the new songs, do you still go out and do some Pip Payne style music, some crazy stuff?
Like, yeah, I don't know. There's things that, like, I guess the one thing that happens if you do start like doing music as a kind of job, and even if you still, like I do, even if you still do things you still do music in your spare time, like the kind of like the joyous moments that you once had, like where you could like not waste but spend an afternoon like with your friends, I don't know, like drinking and jamming. Like now I can't really, I don't know, like it's sad, but I haven't really got any friends. I haven't got any friends. Yeah. I don't know. I have a child. That's the problem. So if I can't really neglect him in favor of going wild. But I don't know. He's going to grow up. So I hope, fingers crossed, he's going to get older, and I will have more time to do that kind of thing. But it's one of the nicest things, I think, when you like the weird thing about becoming like a musician is that you do like kind of by kind of achieving like your dream job, you kind of have to sadly some of the magic gets like slightly kind of rubbed away, you know, and like things like just, I don't know, like just like spending days just kind of like playing cover versions and things like that with friends is something which I like haven't done for, I don't know, like probably like 15 years or something. But yeah, there you go. It's life.
Any more? Oh.
Hi. So what is love for you today? And if you have still a dream?
Two big ones. Good luck.
Yeah, God. I wish I was a bit more profound than I am. Like, love for me is, I don't know, it's like a big hug. I know it's the same as love for everyone, I should hope. Like, it's just, you know, loving people, them loving you, and yeah, my dream So that's the answer to that question. And my dream is that I become really rich, and no, I don't know. I'm kind of like, it's the weird thing is that actually I kind of realized my dream, I think, when I was at like this thing, the Enemy Awards, which is like really like quite a funny awards ceremony. Like, I'm talking about my dream, like in a, you know, it's not a particularly humanitarian dream. I went to this award ceremony, and I like was in the same room as the drummer from Blur, and I think that's when I realized my dream. Like that was, and since then I've just been, you know, coasting. I'm sorry, it's not a more beautiful answer.
Do you have a? Yeah. Oh, sorry, behind you.
Hi, I'm a fan as well, and my favorite album is Nights Out. And I would like to ask you what remixes can we expect, and if there is any chance for Saint Etienne remix.
Oh, it's weird actually. This album, I don't think that the only like we're not asking anyone to. Is that what you mean? Like other people remixing Metronomy stuff? Yeah, I think. Well, sorry. Yeah, well, I've stopped doing remixes in a way. Like I've. Partly because it's something I did a lot of when I was beginning, because it was a brilliant way of like piggybacking on someone else's like promotion and getting your name around, and it was a really great way for me to learn about kind of songs, because I was getting these tracks with people's like vocals on them and stuff. But yeah, I'm not really doing them unless it's some kind of ridiculous. I don't know what it would be, but like, unless it was some kind of really unusual proposition, I'm not sure I'm really doing them. Like, I'm more interested in like production or collaborating with people, because remixes are very it's like a kind of transaction type thing. You know, you just get sent things and then you send them back. And then with this album, we're not actually asking anyone officially to remix stuff. And the nice thing that's happening is that I think there are people who are realizing that that's what's going on, so they're taking it upon themselves to do remixes. And then you know, like I've seen on the internet, you get these like it says like I'm Aquarius, such and such remix, and you listen to it and it's like, oh, it's actually a pretty good, you know, it's a pretty good effort. And you know, like I guess I kind of feel like they're really brilliant. Remixes are really brilliant for when you're beginning, if you're making like dance music and stuff like that. Like, it's a really great way of getting your name around, and I'm like happy for people to kind of have a go, and it's probably better that people like use their own initiative to do that, because I'm sure off the back of that they'll get requests for remixes rather than me kind of asking people. I'm a bit out of touch as well. I don't know what's cool anymore.
I think we have time for one more. You had a question, front row. Last question for tonight.
When you're on stage and playing a live gig, what is like your favorite moment? Is it the second before you're playing this first song, or seeing the facial expressions of the crowd?
It really depends. But like concerts, they can be, depending on on so many things, the kind of experiences of them can really like vary wildly. But I think like, even if you can kind of have this, you know, we can go to places where things are really disorganized and stuff like that, and you kind of, you find it stressful because, you know, like you get to a point where you're used to a level of like organization. But anyway, then what happens is you start playing, and there's always like a point at which either like everyone starts kind of dancing, or everyone starts like singing along to like, there's like the keyboard solo in the look. It's like people are always like singing along to that, and there's something I find really like magical about people kind of like doo 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 doo, kind of trying to vocalize that thing, and then you know, whatever the kind of gig is, whatever like the conditions of the gig are like, you suddenly forget about that, and you just start enjoying, like, because people, you know, ultimately whatever it is, like, people have normally like unless they're like friends of mine, people have normally paid money to come and see. So you can't. I don't know. Like you in the end, you always find like a moment like that, which just makes it really fun. You know.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have for tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, for being here with us. The album comes out in March.
March 10th.
March 10th. You can pre-order it now on iTunes.
And you can buy it everywhere.
You can
on the nice thing. no, iTunes, get it there.
Thank you very much. Chance to have some Q&A later, but before, let's talk a little bit about the album. It's the 4th album, Love Letters. Can you tell us about maybe the working process, like the creative process behind it, writing, recording, the whole thing?
So like the last album, the English Riviera, I kind of recorded. It's like the first thing I've done in a kind of studio, and the first time I worked like a kind of real musician, because I've been doing stuff in like my bedroom before that. And yeah, like after that record, I kind of felt like there were things I wanted to do in a studio that I hadn't kind of done, and there were things I wanted to do on that record which I didn't have time to do. And so very quickly after I'd finished that, I started kind of like planning this album, and like all through the albums, I've been, I guess, like kind of getting more confident at singing and like trying to write songs.
So it is my pleasure to welcome Joseph Mount.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? So welcome. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for coming, everybody.
So you're here alone. Where's everyone else from the band?
They're all like, what are they doing? I think they're all doing kind of homely things before we start touring.
Okay.
So I have to do the bulk of the work.
Okay.
Like this. It's not work, it's pleasure.
You must enjoy traveling around.
No, it's not. It's funny actually. Today, like I've just been doing like loads of kind of interviews, and so it's nice to actually, like, I haven't seen any people. I haven't seen any people all day, and I haven't seen like any people that actually like fans,
Right.
I mean, like I've seen people that like the music. You know what I mean?
Right. That's cool, because we're gonna have a
and kind of deciding that you're gonna kind of like shun years and years of development. But it's kind of like, I really did it as something that would. The reason I did it wasn't to kind of like, wasn't because I think that digital technology is in any way bad. It was just because I knew that it would kind of do something to the way I wrote songs, right. and that was the only reason. And it kind of like, I guess it helped that like the stuff that I was listening to and the kind of songs I wanted to write were much more like traditional in their kind of like structure and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like, it's not. Hopefully, it's not just a kind of like it's not just a kind of throwback, like it's, hopefully it'll kind of add something.
Right. Do you have any, want to say, anecdotes or funny stories from the?
And just by those kind of like, just those two limitations, like just those in themselves just make you have to think completely different about your creative process and how you write music and how you're going to record music, and that was kind of the instigator really for the record. Like those things were what kind of made the record what it is,
right.
Which I guess no one's even heard it, so it's like it's really, it's all right, yeah.
So would you describe the sound of it as being kind of retro or old school, or?
I kind of like, those are words I hate.
Okay.
No, I think like, yeah, my mum would describe it as retro.
Okay.
No, but I mean, it is like, it's retro in the sense that it's kind of like deciding to use this kind of antiquated kind of technology. and it just felt like I needed something, like I needed a situation that would really kind of like focus my like what I do, and like the problem I had when I was doing the English Riviera was that I was in a kind of like a modern studio with like, you know, like Pro Tools, which is like obviously this kind of really incredible program, but it gives you so much choice that you end up sometimes left just like not knowing where you are because you've got so many options. And I just thought it would be really interesting if I like completely like went, not the kind of opposite, but the kind of just kind of used technology that was much more restrictive, but had been used to produce like the kind of best albums ever made. And so I decided that like I wanted to record it in an analog studio onto like 8-track tape,